Hi, this is Dr. Geneva, and welcome to Ignite to Impact. Today's guest is Kumari Williams, a talent acquisition expert who shares with us tips about what employers are looking for as they hire employees, as well as helps us define our best leadership style and gives us tips on how to balance work and life. Join us in the conversation.
Welcome to Ignite to Impact, a weekly podcast about next generation leadership and what it takes to make a difference at work, with family, and in your community. Get ready to be inspired as we pull back the curtain and dive into intimate and energetic conversations with achievers and doers who are in the trenches navigating workplace politics and influencing change. Get ready to hear how leaders fail and get back up, learning how to keep it together while traveling in their leadership journey. Our mission: to help you with leadership tips and strategies that you can use to get fast results and help make your business, community, and world a better place. Now, here's your host, Master Leadership Strategist, Dr. Geneva Williams. So, let's ignite to impact.
Hi there. Welcome once again. This is Dr. Geneva, and I'm just delighted to be having a conversation with you. Thank you so much for listening. As always, you know I love you, our listeners, and I hope you're continuing to find some great information as you listen to the conversations that I have with leaders from all different walks of life as they share how they make a difference in their careers or in the community and their businesses, just all around doing things. And you know how one of my favorite topics is about how you can be the best that you can be in the workplace as a leader, how you can navigate politics and career, how you balance career and life, and your best leadership style, all those kinds of things that really folk who are experienced in human resources and talent, finding, seeing, recruiting talent, they can give us such good information and are so really great in what they do. And so my guest today is Kumari Williams, who is an experienced, certified talent acquisition director with over 15 years of recruitment and HR management experience. And that experience has been in a broad spectrum of industries. She currently is director of global talent acquisition. Now that means, locally, nationally, internationally. But she's head of global talent acquisition at HARMAN. And she leads a team of professionals in the U.S. and in Europe. And she's had several director-level positions within human resources in the public sector. She's got an MBA from Wayne State University. She believes in transparency combined with trust is the foundation for building an environment that promotes and supports growth. I'm just telling you, don't you just want to hear from her? I do. And she's here with us in studio, Kumari Williams. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
We are so delighted. And first of all, you have to tell us, what is HARMAN?
So HARMAN we're most known for our brands. So we've got brands such as JBL, AKG, Harman Kardon, Mark Levinson. And so we grew over the years, over the last 20, 30 years by acquisition. And so there's all these brands that have come together under one umbrella called HARMAN International. So generally people know our brands, like I mentioned, JBL, but we focus on technology, sound, connectivity, and vehicles, and also sound, whether it's, I believe we did all the sound in Lakewood Church, for example. So we can do sound in big arenas, and we can also do the sound that's in your actual vehicle or provide a speaker on your desktop. So we're focused basically on technology and sound.
And internationally.
All all around the world.
All around the world.
We've got locations all around the world.
And in this all around the world company, you are global talent acquisition director.
I am. So I'm responsible for oversight over our process globally. And so that includes a lot of different things, but mainly making sure that we're efficient and we're hiring the right talent to our organization. And we're looking out years in advance to ensure that we're pipelining future talent appropriately.
Okay. All right. So that means you have the finger on the pulse of Harman's employees.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you recruit talent.
Correct.
And you've had other positions in businesses and organizations where you did the same kind of HR function, right?
Absolutely. So I've been with Harman for about a year. So prior to joining Harman, I worked for ADP. And through ADP, I had the opportunity to work for Fiat Chrysler. Actually, they were my client. So I managed the hiring process for 6 years for Fiat Chrysler and sat out in Auburn Hills managing their hiring process. So we were doing about 10,000 hires a year and had a team that was relatively large. And so my role with Harman, though very similar in scope, allows me to have a little bit more flexibility because I get to focus more on things like employer branding and making sure that Harman is positioned as an employer of choice. So my role now is more on the strategy side and less tactical. So less, kind of butts in seat, more strategy, long-term planning and thinking.
And what do you think about that transition?
It's interesting in that when you're in talent acquisition, you get used to taking the licks, right? So you get used to. We usually get blamed for everything, right? So if we take too long to fill the position, it's our fault. If we don't fill it with the right person, it's our fault. So now being more focused on strategy, I kind of miss the knocks a little bit. It's interesting. You kind of get used to some level of abuse, and so I do miss. Sadly.
Now, what are you saying here? Come on.
No,
but I understand.
It's the pace. It's the passion that you get. It's the constant constant is exciting, honestly. And I've been in talent acquisition for some time, and you get used to people that are in TA know what I'm talking about, and it's an absolute kind of rush that you get from the fast race that you're running every day. Where my role now is a little bit slower, more strategy driven, more focused again on long-term planning, positioning Harman as an employer of choice and doing things to pipeline and drive and bring people to Harman. So it's just a different pace, and some days I miss kind of that race a little bit.
Yes. So tell us, how did you get into talent acquisition? How did you come to where you are now?
I will tell you. So my first job out of college, which would have been back in I graduated from college in 2002, actually. And that was right after 9/11. And so the economy took this unforeseen dip. People weren't hiring. So it took me about 6 or 7 months to find a job. And this is a person who I thought I was well positioned to find employment. I had 4 or 5 internships, had a solid GPA, had what I thought was a good major, and really thought, it'll be a breeze to find a job. And quickly learned that based on, lots of different factors that were outside of my control, that I was really going to have to network, my tail off to really try to find something. And I did. So with the help of my mom and some other folks, really found my first job out of college, which allowed me to travel all throughout the U.S. So I was responsible for university relations and college recruiting for a company called Velasas here in Livonia. And so I did that for a couple of years, and that was my first segue into talent acquisition. So since then, I've gone into more human resources type roles and have also done other talent acquisition roles, but always find my way back to talent acquisition. Okay.
So growing up, did you see yourself as a talent acquisition queen?
My mom was in human resources. And so it just kind of, I followed in her footsteps. And that's really, truly how I ended up where I am, is just watching her, over the years, and it just ended up being a good fit for me.
Yeah. And so what did you learn watching her?
That's a really good question. My mom is very even and very can handle things under pressure. And so being in talent acquisition, being in human resources, you have to be level-headed. You have to be able to think objectively and relatively quickly. So I think I learned that from her, she has a really calming presence, and she's very warm. And so those are the things that I probably gleaned from her over the years.
Would you say that's her leadership style? Is that
I would say so. My mom she's very good at delegating. Okay. So I would say that's another thing I'm learning probably to do more of. But I would say that is her style. She's just very empowering. She lets people do their job. She gives you, if she has knighted you or empowered you, that her expectation is that the job is done. So she's not going to hold your hand to, or micromanage in the process.
Have you picked up her leadership style, or have you developed your own?
I think I've developed a lot of my own. I've probably picked up some of the good things from her, but I've also developed over the years watching what I didn't think were good leaders.
Oh, tell us some of that.
Oh man, and
please.
And it's funny because I was talking to my husband a couple of weeks ago, and I was telling him how much I like my boss, my current manager, and I said it's because she leaves me alone, and he said I knew you were going to say that.
Okay.
So and for me, I need to know that I'm trusted. I need to know that I'm empowered, and I need to know that this person gives me the space and the room to do my job because they trust that I'm going to execute and do it well. And so the scenarios where it wasn't that right fit for me, it was because those things weren't happening. So I study people, and so I really watch leaders, I watch CEOs, I watch executives, and I try to take bits and pieces of what they do and implement that with my approach to things. So the good is what I try to take away, and the bad is what I'll reject and say, okay, I don't want to do that, or I want to be the opposite of that. So,
I just love how you described that in terms of leadership, because I think it's so important that people understand as they're looking or trying to figure out their leadership style, that often it isn't just one or the other. Yeah. I mean, it is a combination of things. And I like how you said you kind of looked and you watch and you study people, and then you pick up those pieces that you like. I assume you've seen a whole lot of stuff.
I have.
In your talent acquisition, talent recruiting journeys. Can you share with us a couple of good tidbits, things that you've observed, lessons that you've learned about leadership and leadership styles?
I would say I'm now more than ever realizing that charisma, diplomacy, your ability to effectively communicate with people go a long way. It's not necessarily the person that knows the most about whatever the subject matter is, but it's how effectively you communicate with people and how you make them feel. So oftentimes people get hired because they make you feel good as the interviewer. The warmth about them, that will pull you in. So they may not be the most qualified on paper, but when you walk away and there's that impression, that goes a long way. So it definitely doesn't take away from having the qualifications on paper. But oftentimes I've seen that people will excel in their careers because of how their nonverbal communication really is.
Interesting. So you've interviewed hundreds, thousands, probably
hired thousands, certainly, and interviewed hundreds, definitely.
So tell us the top 3 things. Somebody walks in that door, they come sit down. What are the top 3 things that you notice, or you're zooming in on, or you think are important? What are you looking for? The top 3 things.
For me, the first would just be their overall professional appearance. Okay. Because you want to make sure that you're looking the part and that you aesthetically look like a polished professional. So obviously, again, it doesn't take away, it does not necessarily overrule your skill set, but you absolutely have to look professional. Another thing for me, and this is personal, is I really pay a lot of attention to how a person articulates themselves. Okay. And so to be able to communicate effectively and get your point across in as few words as possible, honestly. I mean, the more I grow and develop in my career, the more I realize that executives, especially at the highest levels, their attention span, that's probably the worst way to say it, but their ability to digest what you're communicating is a little bit different than the average person. They want you to get to the point in as few words as possible. So being able to articulate yourself quickly and clearly and concisely is really important. And so you can get a gauge for how a person does that in an interview. I would say third is being able to, in addition to clearly articulating yourself, be able to communicate who you are and be able to tie who you are to your personal experiences and your personal development over the years. So making sure that you can articulate what you've done and why you're the best fit for the role. Because as an interviewer, I can look at a resume and see if you do or do not have the skills pretty quickly. But there are also times where I may not catch everything. So if you can pull me in and show me and connect the dots for me, that goes a long way. It really does. So you have to be able to sell yourself. So clearly communicating, looking the part, but then also being able to sell yourself and why you're the best fit for the job. Those are just my top. A good handshake goes a long way too.
Good handshake. And it's very simple, but
it goes
that's
a long. It
says
it tells you a lot about a person's level of confidence, how well they can just shake your hand.
Right. So tell me about that handshake.
It needs to be firm, but don't break the person's hand.
Okay.
So there are times where...
So don't grip them and just try to tear it up. Okay.
No, but I will tell you, there have been times where I've interviewed men and they give me a weak handshake because I'm a female. And for me, that's a
interesting.
It happens frequently. I think there's this... I don't know. It's not all men, obviously, but... Right. I would say as a tip for men, shake a woman's hand just like you would
a man.
Because most recruiters or people in hiring authority or positions of authority, they're looking for that. They're not looking for you to have a weak handshake. So definitely want to do that.
So do you find differences in the interview, one-on-one interviews between men and women?
I do. One of the things that's interesting about men is that, and this is statistically proven, that men will apply to a job that they may not meet all of the qualifications for. So if they read a job description, they'll say, okay, I meet, 60-70% of this, and they will proceed to apply. Or generally, women look for the fit or the qualifications for every single, bullet on a job description. So usually when you're interviewing a man, they feel like they meet everything. So it's a different kind of interaction. Whereas women, I think we undersell ourselves. We don't necessarily give ourselves the credit that we should, and we really do ourselves a disservice, And I think about too, we talk about women being underpaid and how we kind of consistently have not met our male counterparts from a financial standpoint. But some of that is self-inflicted, quite honestly, because I've watched the differences between women and men and how they negotiate for compensation. And men they'll tell you what they want and have no problems doing it. Whereas women, you can tell there's a lot of trepidation around even asking for more money or negotiating. I always tell people, always negotiate. Everything is negotiable. You'll get a sense for if an employer is pushing back some and, when to stop and to not take it too far, but definitely negotiate. So just to kind of, to bring it full circle, I would say the difference being is just how women carry themselves and how they communicate their experience. They don't always have the level of confidence sometimes that men go into an interview with.
So just following that a little bit, so the lack of confidence, the confidence factor,
Correct.
Clearly in terms of women. What are some of the other challenges or some other things that you see that women face in the workplace?
Yeah, you talk about the glass ceiling, and, I think people argue both sides of the fence on if it's real or if it's not real. And I would say that in my experience, I don't feel like it's necessarily hindered me over the years, but I've absolutely seen that there is a difference. I mean, you look statistically across most organizations and women are not at the top ranks. And if they are, there's 1, 2, maybe 3 in those upper seats. So I would say that's probably one of the things that is still pretty pervasive in corporate America is just the ability for women to progress and to rise to higher level level or one level below the C-suite type roles. It's still today. I know HARMAN does a really good job. We've got a women's network where we're doing a lot to really encourage our women within the organization and to strengthen the network of women. So I'm actually headed to Connecticut next week. We're doing a global women's summit for, I believe, like director level women and above, bringing everyone to Connecticut, which is where our headquarters is. And we're going to be doing some days of brainstorming and figuring out how can HARMAN help the women in the organization progress through their careers. So as opposed to having, it really is, as opposed to just having these affinity groups groups and where you're just kind of talking and programming. It's let's look at the data. Let's determine where the issues are and how we can actually fix some of these issues.
So HARMAN is really tackling that.
They are.
And you're at the center of that.
Yeah. So my leader, Sandra Martinez, is responsible kind of globally for that particular initiative. But I would, I'm tagging on to that, and I'm happy to be a part. And we'll talk a lot about talent and pipelining future talent and how we attract women to the organization, which is kind of right up my alley.
So let's imagine for a moment that we're on this Connecticut trip with you.
Okay.
We're taking all of us with you. We're at this summit.
Okay.
What do you think the women are going to be saying? But more importantly, what strategies or solutions do you think would make a difference in what it is you think they might say?
You know what I am hopeful to hear is that people want to start doing programming that professionally develops women. So even taking it a step further than a mentor, but doing things to prepare them for the next level in their career. It's not enough to just say, hey, here's a mentor and hope that person will help to develop you, but to have programming to do things that are a bit more proactive. And to pull certain women out and say, hey, what if we had a rotation program where we took 15 women in the organization and plugged them in different parts of the business so that they could be well-rounded and have a holistic view of the organization. And maybe what if it was global? We do a rotation program. We have we have a new rotation program that's specifically for leadership, but it's for new leaders. And we also have some other professional development type organizations, programs in the company, but nothing specifically geared towards women. So that's probably going to be one of my recommendations. I assume that we'll probably hear some of that from the other women as well. But I think if you're going to be proactive and you want to make a difference, you have to invest in that population. And so doing things to ensure that they're ready for the next level in their career. It's not enough to just say, we've got women, but they're not ready necessarily. We have to do the things proactively to develop them.
So being very intentional.
Absolutely.
About, very purposeful, intentional.
Absolutely.
That rotational, so really exposing women to various departments, functions, aspects of the organization so they can grow.
Absolutely. In
all phases. And that so often is such a path to senior leadership. How much you know about an organization, where you've had your fingers.
Absolutely. And the relationships you build along the way.
Absolutely.
When you go into a different department or team, you build an extension of your network. And so if there's an opening down the line in that team or that division, you've got connections and you've got resources and people that you can leverage. So I think absolutely.
Yes.
I think we underestimate the importance of connections internally, and we underestimate the importance of being able to have influence even when you don't necessarily have authority, right? So you can still lead by...
So now I want you to talk a little bit more about that.
Okay.
So that's a good one. Sweet spot. You're hitting them all. I mean, you're just doing it, girl. I could just listen to you for a long time. So hit that. When you talk about that connections and we underestimate...
Absolutely. I think men do it well. I think they connect with their colleagues and they're able to... make connections through the organization and rely on that. Women, I don't know that we do that so much, or we do it with each other, but we're not often the ones in the decision-making seats, right? So you've got to connect with your male counterparts as well and build genuine relationships. I pride myself on being authentic in that I don't want to be phony with people. If I like you and we're clicking, I want us to have a really good, authentic relationship that if I need to call you because I need a favor, you're not dodging my call because we have a really good relationship. And I really try to treat people right, honestly, because I've been in situations where people didn't necessarily treat me right. And so I pride myself on making sure that I absolutely am treating people with respect and dignity. Doesn't mean I get it right all the time, but I definitely think that that's an important thing to continue to remember. Yeah.
And so how do you navigate, you talked about connections. I think the other side of that coin are workplace politics and dynamics, those dynamics that always happen. You got any advice for how do you navigate those workplace politics?
It is hard. That's probably one of the things that I like least about corporate America, honestly, is the politics. But I will tell you, you have to be able to recognize where the landmines are, and you will not be successful if you have the attitude that I don't care about politics. It is what it is. I'm just going to be who I am. That's just not how it works. And if you feel that way and you feel strongly about it, I would suggest you get out of corporate America. What you can do is not compromise who you are, right? So I know the landmines, I know the politics, I know who the players are. I don't always agree with those, who the players are, but it is what it is. And I, by myself, can't necessarily change that, but I'm very conscious of it. And so as a result, when I know I'm dealing with a scenario or a situation where politics is involved, I'm very diplomatic and I'm very conscious of it. And I'm trying to stay 2 steps ahead of the situation and be strategic about how I even approach the situation or the person. So I think you just have to recognize that there is politics. You likely can't get around it, but don't compromise yourself in the midst of it. You know, I still have to go home and feel good about myself in spite of whatever politics there is at work. I'm never going to compromise my integrity as a result of. But I think you have to be very have the foresight to see, again, where the landmines are. That's a lot of corporate America, is understanding who the players are and where you can be tripped up along your journey because you're not, politically aligning where you need to be.
And Kumari, I think that that's not only in corporate America. I think that's probably in life.
I would agree.
But I mean, as you're talking about, because probably in many spheres of everyday living, their social dynamics and politics, because there's people.
Absolutely.
And every time you're interacting with people who don't feel or look or think exactly like you do, but there's a lot of that.
Absolutely.
That you're going to run, because of those interactions, you're going to run in that. And so I'm hearing you say, first of all, be very conscious. Be aware.
Absolutely.
Be aware. And then I also think I heard you say be self-aware too, and that is aware of what your values are, so that you're not compromising yourself. And then do a little forethinking.
Yes.
I guess that's what I'm hearing.
Absolutely. Make sure you know how you're going to survive that situation. You have to be... I'll sit with my team and we'll plan something very simple. We have a meeting coming up with someone and maybe the person's known to be a little bit more difficult. So we'll plan how we're going to manage the conversation or the situation so that we can get the desired outcome. I tell people it's not necessarily about me being right. I just want the right thing to happen. And so I'm okay with taking a couple hits if I have to, as long as my team and we can be successful and get the outcome that we're desiring. So I don't have to. There's often times where, especially if someone's frustrated with me or the team or something, I will own it. Right? I'll own it, apologize, move forward, figure out what the game plan is going to be going forward to keep the relationship intact. I think the relationship is more important than me being right, I would say.
I love it. So, you've been all over corporate America, heading up talent acquisition for many years. Just through your conversation, we can hear that, you're experienced, you've really developed a level of expertise in what it is that you do. I know you rate in there and on your way to summits and, handling global, worldwide issues and people. How do you balance that with your family life? Because you got 2 little young ones and a hubby.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
So talk to us about work-life balance.
It's interesting because it's easy for me because I have very clear non-negotiables. My family comes first is really what it comes down to. This is the first job that I've had where I had to travel a lot. The last 10 years I have not had to do much travel, and it's kind of interesting that now that I have small children I have to travel occasionally, but my husband's a really good support system and I'm able to do that. But even within that, I have some clear guidelines around I can't have a life of travel with 2 small kids. So if I need to go out of town for a couple of days, once a month or, once a quarter, that's doable. But if I can't be on the road every other week because my kids then at some point could possibly suffer. And so for me, I do have some very clear non-negotiables, even something as simple as I don't work after I come home until the kids are in bed. So I don't come home and try to get work done when they're running around. I don't want to be frustrated. They'll get frustrated with me. My baby, he'll actually climb in between myself and the laptop. So he makes it very clear that he needs to be the priority.
Right, that's right.
Yeah. So for me, it's been, I'm blessed in that I've had jobs where I'm able to put my kids first and my husband first, and I take that very serious. And if the job is such that I'm unable to do that, it's not the job for me. And I know that everyone's not in that position, but I'm grateful that I've been able to do that, to be able to say, you know what, these are my boundaries, and be able to stay within those guidelines.
And so you've been able to define that
I have.
very clearly. And,
absolutely.
And as you talked about the other tip about, everything's negotiable. So I'm assuming that as you negotiate your various positions, et cetera, that's on the table?
It is. When I interviewed, the woman that I interviewed with, she said, what's your number one? Kind of what's the deal breaker? And I said, I just need flexibility for my family. If I have a sick child, if I need to work from home, I need to be able to go pick up my baby and come home and finish the day, and no one's giving me, side eyes the next day. And that to me becomes work-life balance. And there's so many women that are in situations where they have to rely on other people to go get a sick child, or, they're just praying that they don't get the call that the baby is sick, or so I'm that for me, above money, above anything else, having the flexibility to be in my children's life and to be there for my husband and to be a good mom and wife is more important than money to me.
So with this balancing that you do, and you're very clear, so I think I see how you make the balance, because you're very clear and there's some non-negotiables and you put them out there and you've defined them and you figure it out. You also are involved with a nonprofit called Perfectly Scarred.
Yes.
And you have a VP responsibility, a leadership responsibility. Tell us about that. And I'm more also very interested in, so how do you balance that? Because so many women talk about, I do want to volunteer, I do want to be involved, but I just don't have the time. How can I do it? So share with us how you do it.
Interestingly enough, so I do sit on the board of Perfectly Scarred. We're an organization we launched in 2016, and our mission is to empower, engage, and to really equip burn survivors and also survivors with individuals that have had permanent scarring. And we were founded in 2016 by a really close friend of mine, Marcia Phillips. And when she asked me to be a part of the organization, I don't know if I was pregnant or just had a baby, one of the two. I was in between. And she said, okay, this is going to be your role. And she clearly defined, I want you to be a part. I know you're not at a space in life where you can commit 100%. But I trust you with my vision, and I trust you with my baby here, and I want you to be a part. And so I served in an advisory capacity for probably almost 2 years.
Okay.
And then she had an opening for the vice president position, and I went to her. And I said, I think I'm ready now. And she said, I don't know. I don't know if you're quite. Okay. And so we waited a couple more months, and then it ended up working out. But it's been good for me because it's given me the opportunity to give back and to also partner with other women that have the same vision and goal in mind. And that's to serve the community in a way, and to support and empower people. So we fit it in. Honestly, we have meetings after my kids go down in the evening, or we'll meet on a lunch break, something like that, so it doesn't conflict terribly with our personal lives. But we really try to make sure that we're impacting the community, but we're also doing it in a way that's not negatively impacting our homes.
And so you think it's important to have this aspect in your life?
I do. My husband's a big, a person who gives back and is very involved in the community, and I think he's inspired me in that way, honestly. I'm starting to kind of catch his passion a little bit, probably slower than he would have liked, truthfully. But I do think it's important, and I would love to do more. I always kept saying, okay, when my kids get older, I'll be able to do more. And I got to a point where I said, I don't want to use that as an excuse. I want to just at least do what I can do now. And so I'm often able to take the kid. If we have an event, we had an event not too long ago. I was able to take the kids with me because we're focused on youth. So it's very easy and appropriate for them to go to those events. So, so I'm able to fit it all in somehow.
So beautiful. You've been able to figure it all out.
Trying.
Yes. So what's next for you?
Yeah.
What's next for Kumari Williams?
That's a really good question. I think I'm still trying to figure that out.
Okay.
There's a part of me that's very entrepreneurial, even though I'm in corporate America and I feel like I've reached a, relatively successful place, and that I'm able to impact other people's lives and help them. I would say what's next for me is some type of entrepreneurial endeavor of some sort. I don't know what it looks like or what it'll be, but something where I can help. Like you mentioned, there's things that I've learned along the way.
Yes,
and I feel like there's an audience for helping people to develop professionally, and possibly something in that space. So that
would be wonderful.
Yeah, I just need to still figure it out. If I can sit still long enough to put some thoughts and ideas on paper. I also bake in my spare time. So yes. So I've toyed with opening a bakery and figuring out what that would look like. So just still trying to.
Do you love baking?
I do.
And does it taste good?
It does.
Are you good?
I'm actually pretty good.
All right.
I've got a little bit of a following.
Okay.
No, I think they're good. So
okay.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite thing to bake?
Cupcakes.
Oh.
So unfortunately, I'm a connoisseur of them as well. So I'm eating them and baking them.
Well, it's all good.
Yeah. So I had to slow down a little bit, but I enjoy baking. It's therapeutic for me, and I come from a long line of bakers and cooks in the family.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So that's one thing I do enjoy doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, it is about finding out what you enjoy. Would you say that's your gift? What was your gift? Have you figured that out? Because again, when you said figure it out, really put your but you're so far ahead because you've come to the realization that it's something I want to do, but I need to figure it out.
I do.
And you will. You absolutely will.
I appreciate the encouragement.
You will figure it out, and it's going to be wonderful. So already you've shared with us, it's obvious, it's clear to see, you in talent acquisition are so talented yourself. I mean, you know what it takes to be a good employee. You know what it takes to be a good employer. So you have a real good sense about leadership and what it takes to move the needle. Yeah. And that's so important. You understand people. You really do.
Yeah.
You understand people. Yeah. And then you've got some things that you love to do for fun and therapeutic.
Yeah.
So it seems you've just got a whole, you got a bunch of stuff right there. It's just a matter of trying to figure out how you want to position it.
Maybe a bakery, and you can come in and get a resume done while you're there or something.
See what I'm saying? There you
Do some professional development workshops with cupcakes.
Hey.
Anything is possible.
It is, because I don't know if anybody else is doing that. So what I want you to do is that when you're out there and successful and making millions, that you'll remember it started here on Ignite to Impact.
I will. You ignited the fire for sure.
Well, Kumari Williams, it has just been an absolute delight. It's just my pleasure. I am just I always get so proud and thrilled when I see and have the chance to talk with leaders like yourself who are really making a difference and will really do something for themselves, their children, and for the community, for other people. And you have a long track record of doing that. I see nothing but great and fabulous things for you. Thank you for sharing your tips and strategies with us. And you'll have to come back. And of course, the next time you come back, I want some cupcakes.
I will bring you a dozen or two.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kumari Williams.
You've been listening to Ignite to Impact with your host, Dr. Geneva Williams, an award-winning executive, facilitator, and master leadership strategist. Dr. Geneva is passionate about inspiring others to get their own leadership on and empowering the next generation with leadership tools and tips to help make the world a better place. Sign up to download Dr. Geneva's audiobook on leadership. Get the show notes, links, and other resources at drgenevaspeaks.com. That's drgenevaspeaks.com. Thanks for listening. Please share this podcast to those in your community via Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or Google+, and leave us a 5-star review in iTunes. When you do that, it helps others find the show better. Send your questions or comments to info@drgenevaspeaks.com and use the hashtag Ignite2Impact.